You are listening to the Let's Chat Soon podcast. We are so excited that you are embarking on this journey with us. Let's Chat Soon is a space where we can chat about all things body, soul, and spirit, and how when you align all three, you unlock a full life. A healthy you is the best gift you can give to grow the kingdom into those you love.
We are back. We're back. Another week's episode. We didn't give up after week 1.
I know.
Technically week 2. You guys are listening on the 3rd week. Yeah. We recorded both of those little episodes last week.
We're being productive over here.
Are being productive.
Things done.
Yeah. I guess we should start and reintroduce ourselves. If you guys have not figured out who we are yet, I'm your host, Mackenzie.
And I'm Alexis. And welcome back.
This has been, we've said this has been a learning curve, but it's going to continue to be a learning curve, i.e. I left my mic at home this week.
That's okay.
I do live half an hour away, so we fully, we're about to sit down, and I saw her pull out her mic, and I was like, oh.
That's me, though. That would usually be me. If I had to drive somewhere, I would forget everything. I'd be like, oh, I'm not wearing a shirt. One time, I pulled up to a client's house, and, I wear scrubs, right? Scrubs, whole uniform. I was wearing my socks and slides. I'm like, hopefully they don't see at the door I'm just kicking off my Crocs. Sometimes you forget.
It happens.
The things you need most. But
we're here. It's true. We have an exciting episode today. What are we talking about today?
Ooh, we're talking about relationships, the good and the bad, and why your dad was right when he said you should never date until you're 30, 35.
How often did your dad tell you that?
A lot. And uncles even. I remember my uncle, he was adamant about it. He was like, here's my phone number. If you ever get in a situation, call me. Don't do it.
That's so funny. If the guy likes you, run away.
Literally, don't breathe the same air as a man.
I mean, honestly, I kicked them for that so much, but now I'm about to raise my children and be like, don't breathe the same air as a man.
No, I'm keeping them in a box.
You will regret it instantly, especially at that young age.
Isn't it funny that when, I guess I can speak for myself, but you probably had the same experience. When you were in your teenage years, I'm like, oh my gosh, when I'm a parent, I'm going to do so many things differently. They're going to have all the freedom in the world, everything that I didn't have. And now I'm not even a parent yet. I'm not even close. And I'm like, oh no, they are literally staying in my womb until they're ready for the earth.
Until I'm not 30.
Yeah, literally. They're staying with mom forever.
Exactly. It's actually insane. And once I see my child too, I know I'm going to be so much worse.
Yeah.
So much worse. I started this fun journal that I need to go back and write with a little more wisdom now. But I started a journal to my future daughter when I was 15
I did too.
No way.
I was going to say that.
That's so funny.
I love it. Okay.
Wait, how old were you when you started it?
I started it way after. It was after my first broken engagement.
Dang.
I'm just going to say that. We're just pulling into it. My first and only. I act like I'm twice divorced. No. But yeah,
crazy.
I remember sitting in my bed. I'm like, she will never have to go through what I went through. And everything.
Because I feel like for any girls who are younger too, this is such a good idea of something to start because you're speaking from a place of being on the same level.
Oh yeah.
Whereas I feel like so many times my mom would say, don't do this, don't do that. I was like, you don't.
I'm like, you don't understand.
But now being in my 20s, I'm like, she did understand.
Oh my gosh, she lived the same life. Probably worse.
Right, exactly. And the whole aspect of social media that's now going to play into it. Oof. I am already praying for the world that our future daughters are going to have to live in.
Yeah, same. It's crazy. So wild. Wait, I want to read yours.
Mine is all about boys.
Same.
Literally.
Oh my gosh. My journal, the journal I started when I was in high school, her name's Bertha. All the details. I look back and I'm like, I knew I was boy crazy, but oh my gosh. Yeah. If I looked at a man and we were getting married,
we should do an episode where we read entries from those journals.
I'm going to have to refine and edit them.
I will as well because
no, that would actually be fun. That would be fun.
That would be fun. Oh my gosh. Does anyone else, maybe other people have that experience too, and they could send in pages and we could read those on the podcast.
Good.
That along with ours.
Yeah. Juice, the tea, and the minds of my innocent, poor, young little soul. It's wild.
It's actually insane. Okay, so we just went on a total tangent of where the heck we were starting. Okay, transport back to us, our high school selves.
Oof.
What did you think your life was going to be like in your 20s when you were in high school?
Okay, in high school, I thought by this age, the ripe age of 25, I would have the white picket fence, 3 young children running around. I'd be baking a cake for my husband, coming home from work. Like, I thought everything would be in place. I had my dream job. I didn't have like a sense of time, even in high school, like of what life entailed and what your 20s entailed. I thought, oh yeah, 25, married with kids, duh.
I wonder if social media is helping that or hurting it.
I don't know.
Because now I feel like if a teenager is on social media, they're seeing influencers, regular people, whatever, post their life in their 20s. Maybe they're getting a little bit more of a grasp, whereas we just, growing up in a world of social media, but not really.
Yeah. Our social media was a lot more curated too when we were growing up.
Right.
Like, I remember Instagram, it was like everything was perfect. And I think until maybe we got into college is when people started posting like real stuff.
Right, exactly. There was a shift.
Yeah. I remember when I posted my first crying video on the internet. It went viral, of course.
Oh, I've been there. Here's the backstory. What was the crying?
I was like 22 out of college, and I'm like, wait, what do you do after college? What do I do? I have no idea. I hate my life. Yeah. It's relatable because you don't know what you're doing in your 20s.
Yeah.
That's like the whole premises of this episode, I think, is like, you think you're going to have it all figured out, and then you kind of get there and you're like, wait,
I have literally nothing figured out. And I think a lot of times people, and I can speak for myself too, use relationships as a Band-Aid. And we just cover our life in our 20s saying, I'm going to have this relationship because that's going to be my fix-all. We don't have to go out and make friends. We don't have to, a lot of times as women, as much as I don't want to admit this on the internet as a girl boss girl, it feels like an aspect of stability in so many areas of life, whether that be financially, whether that be physically, where you're going to move, what you're going to do with your life, how the pace of your life's going to move. It depends on another person too, and not just you, which gives that level of comfortability and stability.
Yeah.
Which I think is the purpose of this episode, is to help women get away from that. And yes, that's an option if you want that lifestyle. Absolutely. But also it's not the only option.
Yeah.
And I don't think I realized that.
That's the key there. Like, I grew up around my friends and family, like, thinking, oh yeah, that is the only thing. And like, yes, I want that. Like, I want to be clear. Like, I do want a family. I do want a husband, all those great things in life. But it's like, there's so much more life to experience before that happens. And I've learned that the hard way, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think there's two polar opposites in what I've learned from traveling and things like that. There's people who don't want to be married till they're 35 and don't really want kids and want to just travel the world. And there's the people at the other end of the spectrum who married their high school sweethearts, who have already popped out a couple babies by our age. And there's this gray area of girls who are in the middle. And it's like, what do you do? What the heck do you do? And the title of this episode, if you guys have read, it's Why You Shouldn't Date in Your 20s. And I'm going to break that down a little bit. We kind of mean teenage years and early 20s, maybe not necessarily into your later 20s, but this is more about the mindset of going into your 20s of you don't need to date in your 20s whatsoever.
Yeah. Mic drop, like, literally. I remember, even going back like to our earlier conversation, I remember scrolling on social media. I was probably like 22, 23, maybe, probably 22. And I saw a girl that was 26 years old. She was like an influencer. And she had just gotten a boyfriend or engaged, like a serious boyfriend. I remember like, oh man, like, that better not be me. Like, 26, like, that's insane. I'm turning 26 this year. What? But I'm like so comfortable and so fine.
Right.
I definitely had the moments in my life where I'm like, I'm so behind. Like, what am I doing? Like, my fertile years. I always like joke with my family, like, my ovaries are shrinking at this point. But it's not true. Like, our timeline does not have to follow this like strict path of what you see other people do.
Right. Well, you see other people do, and then also within the Christian culture entirely. And I know that's a bit of my story of that's what everyone did at my Christian school. That was kind of the general understanding, especially preaching that, which we could do a whole other episode on this, of waiting for marriage. I feel like a lot of people kind of just wanted to have sex and just got married because they wanted to have sex. And okay, to
hopefully they like who they're having sex with.
Right, exactly. Like, let's focus on sure character points, especially. What was it like? How did those I need to be married by 25 character traits implement throughout your childhood and your teenage years?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think like I just focused on it like too much. Like, that was like almost my identity. And like when I went into dating, it was almost too serious. Like, I think there's a fine line. I've heard someone say, like, when you're dating, you need to have this like microscope. microscope on, looking at all the details, like with a fine-tuned brush, like literally every character trait of that person and yourself. And then when you get married, like take those glasses off because you've already done the hard work. I think there's that, but then also like when you're in your 20s or like late teens, early 20s dating, like not every man you meet is going to be your husband. And like that is fine. And like dating is okay and it's good to experience different people and different personalities and see who you are and figure out who you are through those experiences. And I think I just put way too much pressure on it in the beginning. Like my high school boyfriend was going to be my husband. Like I had a wedding dress, I had the wedding venue, like invitation sent out, and like thank God that didn't happen. Like looking back, it would have been a divorce.
Amen. Amen to that. And when we're talking about dating, we're talking about long-term serious relationships of, again, that's what that Band-Aid is. It's not going on dates. It's not meeting a ton of different people. That I honestly think is so great. But I was the same way, where I was raised with the aspect of date to marry. So that meant whoever I was dating, I was going to marry.
Yeah, duh. After week one.
What?
Like I'm picturing the wedding. I'm like, oh yeah, he's going to be this kind of dad. Like what? He's 20.
Why was I
He can't even do his own laundry.
Why was I talking to my 15-year-old boyfriend about our like marriage?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Date,
100%.
like you were saying, have the microscope and have such an open hand. And I think that's something you don't learn in your teenage years. And as much as we can sit here and say this to often a lot of you guys who are teenagers and in your early 20s, it's something you got to learn on your own, unfortunately.
Yeah. And everyone's going to go through their own path.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying about having the microscope is so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
for sure.
important.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
What kind of girlfriend were you when you were dating in your early 20s?
Psychotic one. I was psychotic. I thought my boyfriend was my world.
Mm-hmm.
Genuinely my world. So when we fought, my world was over. When we were good, I was on cloud 9.
Mm-hmm.
When he didn't like something my parents did, gosh, my parents were the worst people in the world. Evil. They didn't want us to be together. They didn't want us to spend time together. They had too many rules. I think my relationship, just speaking relationship, not him, just relationship, was one of the worst things that happened to like my parents and I's relationship because it caused so much tension. And I now, of course, like everyone does, see where they were coming from 1,000,000%, but it put so much strain on that entirely. But I was entirely the jealous girlfriend. I was the girlfriend looking at his location 24/7, was worried about things, was always concerned. But I also was in my long-term relationship was about 5 years, give or take. That's really the one I'm speaking from and speaking on. I was so controlling. Yeah, we'll start there and then we'll kind of talk about how the girlfriend I am now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was the same way, super jealous. And I think like the character traits in a relationship that you have for your first relationship, unless you like nick those in the butt and fix them, they're going to carry on into your older adult relationship. So like I was crazy jealous. My boyfriend at the time in high school and early college was older than me. So he had went to college before me. A lot of deception. And of course, Simon's still in high school and I'm jealous. And what are you doing? And what parties? And who are these girls? And I never took care of that before I got into my next relationship. And I was even not a good girlfriend in the next one because I carried all that baggage with me. And I was jealous when I had no reason to be jealous in the next relationship. And that's so not fair to the next person you're going to date or you are dating.
Right.
Yeah.
I've talked about that on the internet a lot, how the 2 years after my long-term relationship were so important. And I see so many times people jump from one relationship to the other. And it's true. You carry that baggage and that resentment from one person onto another person. And that's how we just create a world of broken, hurt people. And it's so not fair to your point at all.
It's a cycle. It keeps repeating until you fix it. Cycle. Or you could just skip that and let your brain mature.
Right. Right, exactly. Skip it, or once you get out of that relationship, properly take time to heal.
Yeah. What do you think are some other things that girls can focus on other than boys when they're in their early 20s?
So many things. Literally so many things. Again, I was in a 5-year-long relationship. I graduated college. I moved to Florida for him, and the plan was he graduated college, he proposes, we get engaged, we get married. That was the plan.
Sorry.
Exactly. But that was all that I had planned out for my life, period. Period. And I look at my life now, only 2.5 years later, and the things that I see for my future are so much more. Like just even like quantity alone. I want to start businesses. I want to do all these cool things. I have a drive to be healthy and be this certain kind of mom. And that was so stripped from me when I just had like blinders on of I only see this relationship and that's all that I really want in my life. I think there needs to be more emphasis on friendships over just about anything in your 20s. I got into a discipleship group 2 years ago. It was 4, 5, 6 months before my ex and I broke up. And we started that group. We had accountability. We had these really deep friendships. And yes, I mean friendships wherever. I know a lot of times we get out of college and our friends are all over the world. I mean friendships close, nearby, who are watching your everyday life, who are watching how you carry yourself, who can see that you just came from crying in your room for 5 hours, like actually have a insight into your life, not a let's catch up on the phone an hour a week. Because as much as we love those friends, they can really only do so much. But having those deep connections and those deep friends to hold you accountable, they notice things. And we started that discipleship group. Probably 70% of girls were in relationships. Guess how many were in relationships at the end?
Ooh, I don't want to know.
One. One girl.
Wow, that's it. It speaks a lot.
One of the girls. And a large part of it, we talked about guys. We talked about everything going on in our lives because it was just a place where we shared hurt and did all these different things. But we realized we didn't need those guys. And it's not that you should want your boyfriend 1,000,000%. You should want to spend time with them, all of those different things. I think that's good and healthy. But if you need him and your 20s are nothing more than your relationship, there's some issues there.
I remember my mom saying once to me, she was like, of course I love your dad and like he's my whole world, but I don't need him. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's my dad. Like, you guys are a pair, a couple. But like, she's coming from a place where I think we're talking about right now, like, you have to be your own individual person and have your own goals and aspirations and your own hobbies and your own life before it's ever going to work out intertwining with another person's life.
Right, exactly. And I think girls who are in relationships can also take a lot from this too, because if you go out and make friends, that also needs to be a priority for you too, even if you are in a relationship. And if you survive your relationship with having good friends, I wish you the best of luck in that endeavor. But it really shows if you do have a strong relationship or not. I know now I could get into a discipleship group and be entirely fine, where I wouldn't be running to my boyfriend being like, oh, I'm breaking up with you because
wait, you're doing this.
My friends are so much better. But it's also realizing that platonically people can love you so well. And when you get a glimpse of that love, you also simultaneously get a glimpse of Jesus's love. And you see that this love you're possibly getting from your relationship is not all it's cracked up to be.
That's good. That's real good.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think? Which we could literally go back and forth of all the things to pursue.
I agree with you. The friendships is a big one. I remember when I got out of, honestly, both my previous relationships, I was like, who do I call? Like, I want to go get a coffee or go for a walk or go to a workout class. And I was like, I don't have that friend that I can call up. And like, that was terrifying. I'm like, okay, like, what do I do? And I think just like also on the flip side of that is being comfortable being alone and spending time with yourself. I remember like specifically breaking up with my boyfriend. There was many breakups. This is the first one. But I remember like sitting in my car. I'm like, I was like not even sad about the relationship ending. I was more mad at myself for like letting myself be so like engulfed in his life that I didn't have a life to go back to. Like, I was driving, like, where do I drive? Do I go home? Like, I don't have anywhere to go or anything to do. Like, obviously I had a home, but like theoretically, like I had no life to return back to when ours was finished.
Right.
And that was like terrifying. And I like remember making a promise to myself right then. I was like, I will never prioritize someone else more than I prioritize myself.
Right. And especially in your early 20s. And circling back to the point of you're supposed to have a magnifying glass on. I think also have a magnifying glass on your own life too.
Oh yeah.
When you're dating in your 20s, who are you? What are you doing? Who are you becoming? And then once you do enter into a marriage, you can kind of again let that magnifying glass down. Like obviously you're going to be living with this person, spending a lot more time with them. You do become one within that, and the dynamics of that change entirely.
Yeah, you're building life separately until you become one. Then you're building that life together. But until you're ready to build that life together, like what's the point of living if you're not building anything for yourself.
Right. Did you freak out about the financial aspect of not getting married young?
Ooh, that's something I feel like I live in Delulu land. So like half the time, I honestly didn't think about that. Yeah, no, I don't know. I didn't think about that. And I think I've always been a little more like career oriented anyways. Like I've always wanted to create something for myself no matter what after my first relationship. So like my first relationship, he was going to school to be a doctor. And so like that was going to be my life. I was going to be living wherever he was because he was going to school. And I was also going to nursing school. Like, yes, I would be a nurse. But until I was out of that relationship, I think I was like, all right, now it's time to build something for myself. And I never really was like, oh, let me wait till I get married. I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm delusional. So it's like, oh, money will come. Hopefully.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I can legitimately not imagine that mindset whatsoever.
That's funny. Yeah. I feel like we're so the same, but different.
Right.
In so many ways.
I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom since I was like 5.
Yeah.
So in my head, I had kind of accepted a job knowing I was going to work it for a few years. And then my ex wanted kids super early too. So I was like, well, I only really need to find a job that I want to work for maybe 2 years.
Interesting.
And I had that mindset. And then we break up.
You're like, wait a second.
And I'm like, oh, now I
hate this job.
To pay for things and get out of this. And what the heck do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Which in the end now is great because we'll talk about it next week or the week after. I work my dream job.
Yeah.
And
same.
I would have never, I can say that because he didn't like that I traveled. Nor does a lot of guys. We'll talk about that later too.
Or if they didn't like that you post on social media. Right. I got that. Why do you have to take a picture of everything? I'm like, I genuinely enjoy it. And at that time, I wasn't even like posting.
Having fun.
Like, me alone. I'm a girl. Just a girl.
Right, exactly. I think also, which we can vaguely dive into the aspect of traveling, but it's more difficult to date in the aspect of you lower down the spectrum of guys who are willing to accept a girl who is independent, who is good on her own. But it also narrows down the options, which can seem like a bad thing when you feel like you're being ghosted and things are not happening and things keep falling through. But when you realize the pool of good guys that actually do show up, who are okay if you're traveling, who are okay if you want to be a girl boss, who are okay with whatever lifestyle you're living right now, game changer.
It's almost like it hurts their ego a little bit if you're going to want to do better.
You have to be dating such a confident and secure man for him to be okay. And isn't that the goal? Like, isn't that what we want?
Yeah, that's so true. Like, looking back at my first relationship, so many times where like different ideas were just shut down. And like looking back, it was almost because he had his big dream. And if it was going to be bigger or equivalent, like, no, that he's the man, you know? I remember driving, I was going on to Sadie's, which is like a homecoming date with this guy. Like, we weren't dating or anything. We were just like going to this date and we were talking. I think at the time I wanted to be like a heart surgeon or something crazy. I was like a sophomore in high school. And I was like, yeah, I want to be a heart surgeon. And I remember this boy telling me like, oh, I could never have my wife be like a doctor unless I was like something bigger than a doctor. I'm like, well, that's crazy. Like, I remember like thinking like, oh, weird, but like not really thinking too far into it. But now that I look at that and like, that's so terrifying. Like, ugh.
And that's a really scary thing about starting dating, getting into a serious relationship when you are young. You're just kind of told that. And I remember being told that all the time of, you can't travel, you can't do this, you need to do this, you need to whatever. It wasn't said exactly like that. It was said in a different way that was slightly gaslighting of, oh, I can never marry someone who did that. I can never marry someone who didn't drink, who didn't have tattoos, who traveled. I can go on with the list, you guys. It's embarrassing. But now I've grown so confident in myself over taking these 2 years to be single. If a guy were to tell me that now, I would look at his face and laugh.
I would literally be, okay, bye. Have a good day.
If he told me anything of that sort, you can't be something.
Yeah.
Life is way too short.
That's the opposite of the people I want in my life, including like friendships or relationships. Like, I want the biggest supporters on my team and on my side being like, I'm like, I want to go to the moon. They're like, heck yeah, you can. Like,
right.
I mean, realistically, but like, I want everyone to be in the same Delulu land as me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
entirely. Who you're with is going to be your biggest cheerleader or your biggest critic.
Mm-hmm.
You got to choose it wisely.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's a scary world. Like, this is so serious. Huh. Also, we could talk about something crazy.
Wait, I don't know what you're gonna say.
At church this weekend, it was so interesting. They just full on started. They did like a men's brunch or something.
Okay.
And they started off talking about statistics of like, oh, we need to invest in men. And he was like, why do we need to invest in men? And read off some statistics of how important a male's role is. And this is speaking to the 99% of our female audience of it's so important who you date and who you pick. But it was saying if the mom gives her life to Christ, there's a 17% chance that the rest of the family will follow. If the dad gives his life to Christ, I wish I had it written down. It was either 77 or 93%. Either way, that is an insanely high number.
That's insane.
That like hit me in the gut of, dang, I can only have 17% influence.
Yeah. I mean, it's true when you look at family dynamics, like even my own or like my friends and people that I see, like it is, I don't know why it's like inherently in us that like
the father's the leader.
The father's the man of the house, and like it's almost like more trust. It's like so kind of messed up. I don't know. In a sense, that's like how a family was built and how it's supposed to be built. That's crazy.
So it's like even more. Be so freaking picky.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why, circling back to the whole point of this episode, don't date in your 20s is not just us saying never date in your 20s. It's us saying walk in with that mindset, because then you're not going to be so quick to settle because you don't need a boyfriend. You just
literally don't.
I don't need to date in my 20s.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm good. And the right one will come.
What about like crocheting? Why can't we say like we need crocheting in our life? Or like baking. Like there's so many, like back to the point of like experiences and hobbies. Like I picked up so many different new things and new hobbies when I was single that I could carry into my relationships. But like I didn't have the time or the space to figure those things that I liked out until I was sitting by myself alone.
Right.
And like being comfortable in that.
Yeah. Christians always throw around the term waiting season, and I think that's so stupid. I'll be so honest. I think that term should be completely written.
Yeah, what are we waiting for? Why can't we live?
What are we waiting for? Genuinely, what are we waiting for? I had a moment not even a year ago where my strongest desire in life is to be a mom. It literally always will be. And I was sobbing every single night, would cry myself to sleep every night over the fact that I was not yet a mom. Because there was a point in my life when 23 was the year. Apparently, we were going to start having children.
Tapping them out.
Crazy.
No, I thought I would have 10 kids. And like doing the math, I'm like, shoot, I think I can only have 5 if I start by like 28.
That's insane. Yeah, literally insane. I remember just sitting there crying, not understanding why I was not a mom yet whatsoever. And I had this moment where eventually I went to this Christian conference and I just felt a peace from the Lord that you don't need to be doing things as in going out on dates and doing all these different things, but the doing things you can be doing is preparing your heart and preparing your physical body too. And it was around that same time when I understood how important my physical health was as well. I started having so many different issues in my brain and I was in the hospital and all of these different things. And I realized, hey, preparing as a mom can also look like caring about my health and prioritizing my health. I've listened to a couple podcasts where it just talks about one of the best things we can do for our children is to raise healthy kids. And I wouldn't have learned any of that had I just gotten married and popped out some babies at 23 years old. I would have had no idea.
Yeah, same.
Literally whatsoever. And you can take that in any single way you really want of your waiting season is not a waiting season. There's purpose in it. And that purpose can look like something completely different than adding to being a mom, or it can also look like that purpose too, but in a different way. And I think that was something I needed to realize because I just kept trying to shove down that desire to be a mom over and over again. And it wasn't working. It was making me more sad.
Yeah. Like you can still have those desires and those wants. Like we both want kids and want a family one day.
Right.
But it's just navigating when that will happen. And I love what you're saying about like the preparing aspect of it because I'm kind of going through the same thing right now. It's like, even if I was like married and ready to have a kid, my body's probably nowhere near ready. Like there's so many things I need to fix for myself and my mindset and financially, like
right.
so many things that you can be doing to prepare to to get you to that place if that's ultimately where you want to be. And it doesn't have to be like dating Chad and waiting for him to pop the question.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because there is a lot we can do as females. A lot of times we think, going back to the first part, the guy's just going to come in and solve all my problems. You know,
He's probably going to add problems.
the entire...
Chad has a lot of problems, and we're probably going to be helping with his problems.
It's entirely true.
But like, I mean, we're women. That's what we do. That's what we're best at.
Right. We're very good at nurturing. So please find a good one who does not need like tedious nurturing.
Right.
Whatsoever.
There's like a level of threshold. Like if Chad doesn't know how to do his laundry and cook an egg, he might need to like go back to basic ed and figure those things out. And maybe you and Chad can work out one day.
But recommend some schooling for him.
Yeah. Like you don't need to be the mom to teach him everything at all. No. Sometimes I'm like grateful for like the guy I'm dating now. Wow, I'm saying this stuff. Wasn't expecting that. But like he is really good at, you know, the basics. And I'm like, either your mom did a good job or like the girl before. Like it's not coming from a place of jealousy anymore. I'm like, thank you, Marissa or whoever.
Right.
Whoever her name was. Like you really did a good job preparing. And like, you know, I don't know.
Do you think you did a good... This is such a funny question. Do you think you did a good job preparing your future?
Oh, my gosh. Okay, not the first one. No, like he probably took nothing from my psychotic behavior. He was probably like, not to get, not what to do. But like that was both of us. We were both very toxic, not the right relationship. Very young, a lot of hormones going on.
Yeah.
My last boyfriend, yeah, I think I definitely, and I think he prepared me in some ways too. Like I really think I can come from the place that's like, not anymore like, oh my gosh, I sit here and be like, oh, Chad, like it's so much. Like I'm not a man hater. I think
both have boyfriends.
Yeah, both have boyfriends. But I think like he taught me a lot about life, and I think I taught him some things as well.
Right.
And prepared him in some ways. He also had like a mom and a sister too that did a good job. He did still have his mom do his laundry, but we don't want to talk about that.
That's horrible. Some men just not get it.
They just hang it as straight. I don't know. It's not that hard.
Why can men not do laundry?
I know.
Comment down below.
I will say my boyfriend literally did a load of laundry. Ruined like 4 pairs of my clothes. I'm like, do you not know the difference between whites and darks? I'm sorry. It's like literally. And then the other day he was like, all right, I'm going to like throw a load in for you. Like, is this white? Is this? I'm like, are you colorblind? What do you mean? White or dark? I get it though. If it's like a pastel yellow, you're kind of questioning. Like I do get it. I give grace, but figure it out.
Right. Because that would...
Come on, Chad.
Come on, Chad. Because that with like a dark blue, you never know.
Right. Yeah.
But that happened.
Same. I bought these shirts from Free People, like those workout shirts. I bought navy, purple, and white. Now I have 2 purple because Chad washed the navy with the white. Chad, I already had that color. Like you were really looking out for me and like trying to give me a cute color, but I already had it. Didn't need the help.
Really love white clothes. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think we touched on a lot of good things, and I think the overall basis is like we started off, like start prioritizing yourself, and if you're going to date, take out that microscope and really look at yourself, but also look at them, and they're not going to be your whole world. And they shouldn't be, and they don't have to be, and you should have your own aspirations and your own experiences different from Chad.
Yeah. Don't you let your mom be the only one you hear it from. You should be entirely a whole person on your own. You should find who you are in Jesus if you love the Lord, and focus on that during this season of life, because the right one will come along and he'll be so grateful you did that, and vice versa, because a lot of times we want guys to be this whole version of themselves too. We can't expect them to be when we're just walking in as half of ourselves saying, well, you're supposed to fix my life. No, I'm not going to fix your life.
Yeah.
Never going to do that.
Don't put that on him.
Don't put that on him. He absolutely won't do it.
Nope. Yeah, we already did that. We got all the spots.
Yeah.
Much. Cool.
I know. We never know how to finish. Anyways. Just remember, this is your evaluating time over anything else, and stick with it. Have good people in your life who are going to push you towards the best guy for you. I think it's made so much of a difference having friends who I know are intentionally praying over my future husband at all times. And that just really, like, if you have good people in your life, they will tell you everything we just did.
Mm-hmm. And I think I want to leave like with this too, is like how to find friends. Because like I remember getting out of the relationships, I was like, where do I go find girls that are friends? I was going to a community college. I was going to school with like a lot of moms. It was great. But like, where are girls my age? Where can I find that? And I think you can look within your community. Like if you love Jesus and you go to church, church is a great place to start. Some tangible takeaways like Bumble BFF. I don't know. It's kind of weird at first, but I found my roommate and like we're still friends to this day. I lived with her when I first moved to Florida, and like it's kind of weird because you're like going on dates with girls and like evaluating. But I mean, it's a weird time we live in where like community is not like the focus, and so you actually have to actively go out and like find your people. Yeah. And so Bumble BFF was like a really good resource for me. Social media, that's how we became friends.
It is.
Like even if you're not posting, like you can go on and like like hashtag it, like girls living in South Florida. I don't know. Go to like, this is what I did. One of the times I went to like a workout place like that was in West Palm, and I like looked at people that were liking their posts.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, like this girl looks like she's nice. Maybe she wants to be friends with me. And like following her, sending her a message. Like you got to put yourself out there a little bit.
Yeah.
There's also tons of like community. Eventbrite is one of a place where they'll like host events that are going on near you. But yeah, I think those are some just like tangible things where if you don't have friends and you are needing friends, you gotta kind of actively put yourself out there, and it's scary and intimidating, but you're gonna be so grateful that you did.
And I would also say 90% of girls are in the exact same boat. Honestly, 90% of people.
They're looking too. Like I promise you, like so many.
When people message me, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember being so down bad and not having people, being so desperate.
Yeah. I remember girls messaging me because I was posting on TikTok a little bit when I first moved to Florida, and they're like, hi, this is so weird. I'm like, it's not weird at all. Like, thank you. I have no friends, like at all. Like, thank you. And those are some of my best friends to this day.
Right.
So,
which is awesome.
Yeah. Lovely.
Well, make sure we're a new podcast, so we would so appreciate your review down below, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube. Subscribe. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast. It helps more people find us. But we love you guys, and let's chat soon.
Let's chat soon.